After 3 months away, it's finally race week again as we get ready for the Australian Grand Prix. After testing in Bahrain, it seems McLaren are the team to beat. Some people even thinking the MCL39 could be half a second a lap clear of the field. In this week's GPFans Special, we're diving into the starts of this season, but before we do, please remember to subscribe so you don't miss content like this in the future. We're at the start of the final year under the current F1 regulations. The current set of regulations was initially meant for 2021, but was pushed back by a year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. At the start of the ground effect era, we saw different teams with different philosophies, and Red Bull struck gold. Ferrari had a bathtub side pod concept, as it was called, while Mercedes famously had no side pods at all, also called the zero pod concept. Red Bull invested in the floor, where downforce is generated during the ground effect era. The team also managed to control porpoising, the bouncing of the car at the end of a straight, something Adrian Newey had a big hand in at the time. So, Red Bull dominated the current regs, but in 2024 that came to a sudden end. The RB20's concept differed from the RB19, the 2023 challenger that became the most successful car in F1 history. Red Bull themselves explained they had to change the concept of the car to stay ahead of the competition, but it did not work. From the Miami Grand Prix onwards, it was McLaren who had the better car, and only after some upgrades late in the season did the Red Bull become competitive again. No, last year we did a patch, I would say. Red Bull's technical director Pierre Vacher said to Planet F1 about the RB21, the 2025 challenger. Quote, a patch to reduce the potential a bit, make it a little bit wider, but it was a small patch. Now we did the full concept of the car in this direction, added the Frenchman, who thinks the new car should be between 3 and 4 tenths quicker. Red Bull then changed concepts last year, but slightly undid that during the season. Initially, the team thought the full potential had been reached, but McLaren showed there was a lot more gains to be made. According to Last Words on Sports, McLaren still have room for improvement. Reportedly, the Woking-based team switched its focus to 2025 midway through last season to win this year's title as well. The team expects to win plenty more lap time and to be ahead of the competition or even dominate. Other teams know this, as the GPS data in Bahrain reportedly showed McLaren are significantly ahead of the pack. One thing we must not forget is the regulation regarding the balance of power, or the BOP. As the Constructors' champion, McLaren have been allocated the least wind tunnel time, which could have an impact with the rules around flexing front wings changing. McLaren leaned on the flexing wings heavily in 2024, and even though the FIA first opted to stay put, there will now be rules against the flexing after all. If you're curious about what that exactly means and what will change, check out last week's GPFans Special, where we went into detail on this. Link in the description. The short version is that from the 9th race onwards, the Spanish Grand Prix, the rules around flexing wings will be more strict. Nobody knows what impact this will have, but predictions can be made, of course. Christian Horner's gripe was that Red Bull spent a lot of time and resources into flexing parts, but nobody knows how the car will behave without those parts. He did add that there is a second concept of the RB21 that doesn't rely on flexing, which could be the concept that takes over from Barcelona onwards. McLaren, on the other hand, think the new regulation won't affect them too much, even though in Bahrain testing, those wings were definitely flexing again. There is one more big factor in play. In 2026, all F1 cars will drive with radically different power units. The big question will be when each team starts focusing on that. Haas in 2021, for example, did not develop the baseline car at all, as rule changes were coming. The American side chose to put all of its eggs in the 2022 basket rather than upgrading the current car. Don't expect this in 2025 from any of the top 4 teams, but if Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull are further behind than they thought, they could choose to stop development early and go all in on next year. For McLaren, it will also be very interesting to see how they allocate their resources. Well, safe to say we have a very interesting F1 season ahead, starting this weekend in Melbourne. Who do you think will take home the title? Let us know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for watching.